Guys, Miss Corcoran here, and today I'm going to show you the second video, which is how to isolate a food asset in Photoshop. So the first thing that we're going to do is go to pexels.com on the internet. So go to Safari. I use Chrome, but you can use Safari, and you're going to type in Pexels, Pexels.com, and this is a high-resolution photo resource that has thousands of different professional photos that you can use as long as you abide by the copyright rules. So if you were going to use this picture and you put it on a shirt and then you sold all of your shirts for $12 a piece, that is copyright infringement because you are not giving attribution to the photographer, which means you are not crediting her or him, and technically they should profit from your profits. So because we are just doing an in-class project, it is okay. We are using this just for personal use. We are not selling our menus. So in the search bar, I am going to search for a food item. I'm going to start with pizza. So you would pick a photo that you think will work well on your menu. Now, if you are using a photo for the entire background of your menu, that's fine. Just make sure that there's a lot of blank background space where your text could potentially go. For example, this one, you might flip it and put the title right here on the left over the gingham tablecloth. Okay, so what I'm going to do is find a bird's eye view photo, which means taken from above, of a piece of pizza or a whole pizza. So I'm looking, and I find this one looks good to me. That's a nice photo. Okay, and then we are going to go to free download. Say thanks to Andy. He is the photographer. Now I'm going to go to my downloads. I'm going to drag it to my desktop. And then I am going to you can do two things. You can drag it into Photoshop, or you can control click open with Photoshop. So for this case, I'm going to just drag it into Photoshop, and it's going to open automatically in Photoshop. There it is, high resolution photo of a pizza. Now, I am going to just use the pizza image. I'm not going to use the tomatoes or anything else right now. So the first thing that I'm going to do is go to my selection tool over here. And if you hover your mouse over the tool, you can see an animated GIF of what the tool does. Makes a selection by finding and following the edges in an image. So a lot of times when I know that I'm going to make a selection, what I'm looking for is high contrast between the subject and the background. And in this case, I don't have a lot of high contrast between the subject and the background because the background is a cutting board and the pizza is also on a cutting board and the crust is also kind of the same color as everything else. So we're going to give it a shot, but I know that Photoshop might struggle a little bit with finding the edges of the pizza. Now, new to Photoshop this year is what's called a Select Subject button, and that theoretically selects the subject automatically. So we're going to go ahead and click that and see what happens. Okay, so you can see that Photoshop thinks that the edge is right here between the sauce and the crust. So what I'm going to have to do then is go into the select and mask function, and that will allow me to make my own selection in a more specific way using the paintbrush. So you're going to go over here to properties and make sure your view is on overlay. And then you can set it to 100% or 47%. I like to do something low so I can see the background. Then I'm going to hit B for brush, or you can get the paintbrush over here. I'm a big fan of key commands, as you know. And then I am going to make sure my hardness is down a bit. And I am just going to then paint in the rest of my pizza. Okay. And this just takes a little bit of time. Now, very serious Photoshoppers, when they're making a selection, oftentimes you'll see them sitting here for hours, zoomed in all the way to here to make the perfect selection. You can hear Harry Potter in the background, maybe. There's another class going on outside. Okay. And again, remember your paintbrush, left and right brackets. Brackets. Make your brush bigger or smaller. Okay. I'm going to zoom out. And I wish I did a time lapse with this so that you can get to the end really quickly. But this is basically what you're going for. Be careful, do a good job. You don't want any raggedy food images on your menu that looks like they've been like cut out with a pair of scissors by like an elementary school student. Although I don't know, my daughter is very careful with scissors. She's pretty meticulous. And she's in kindergarten. Okay. I'm going to keep going, keep going, keep going.
I'm so glad you asked. I'm gonna tell you right now. Before I met my smoker truck, I had
Sorry
zero
if you can
friends.
hear that in the
Someday,
background.
this man messages me up
It's
and
another
offers
class
to pack
going
up. He says,
on
let's go.
outside the door here.
I
Okay.
love food. Are you my soulmate? He says, meet me at my house. I will drive us to the restaurant together. Why don't we not just meet there? I have
Okay.
no idea.
So
But when I get to
now
his
what
house,
you're going to
he leaves it
do,
and he walks out
after
the
you're
door.
done
He says, I
here,
lost my keys. Can you drop us there?
you are
Should I
going
just bust down
to
there and tell
hit
him I'm just
OK
the guy? Absolutely not.
down there on the
He
bottom
answers,
right,
let me try
and
that.
that
You're
is
actually
going
taking me to
to
meetings
jump you
and bring me
back
to your house
into the
just so we
Photoshop
can meet up.
workspace.
Left at this stop sign? Okay.
And I'm going to
Tell
go
me
hit
what the
Command
hell
0. And
happened.
now the only thing I notice is that the
Just
tomatoes
tell
are
me.
still selected here. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the minus up here,
We get to the speaker and he just says, I'm
deselect
pulling over. I
my
want $100.
tomatoes.
Thank you.
See, this crust is a little funky right here. But I'm okay with it. All right, now next magical key command is Command J.
He's like, yeah.
Command J makes a new layer, but if you have selected an active selection, it will make a new layer out of your selection instead of duplicating the entire background.
Okay.
Now you can see I have a floating pizza, and it's decent. It's not like perfect, but I'm thinking that I can put maybe some text over here to cover up this little part. And if you're not happy with it, you go back and hit select and mask again, and you can just start over.
Wild.
Okay, now you are going to control click,
Emptying the boxes of tacos, just releasing onto the table.
export as
At the table, sits down, and he
a
just
PNG with a transparent background. And I'm going to make my size 2 times as big as it is. Do I need to do that? Not really, because it's a high resolution image, but I guess I'm used to doing that because I'm not always dealing with high resolution images. Now I'm going to hit export, and it's going to say, where do you want it to export? And I'm going to say pizza onto my desktop. And then it will think, and then it will be done. And now what you can do is go into your Illustrator file. You can see there's my Burger Country menu. And we are going to File, Place, My Pizza, and click. And you can see how large that is. That's because I made it 2 times the size of its normal size. And there it is. Now, you're probably like, I don't want this pizza floating in front of all of my things. And that's true, you shouldn't, because you need people to be able to read things. So you're going to go to your layers. Remember that Adobe Illustrator and Adobe Photoshop both work in layers. Obviously, Photoshop is dependent a lot more on layers, but Illustrator uses them too. And you can just click and drag all the way down. And there it goes, right in the background. You can also lower the opacity using your properties. Whoop. And just say, hey, that's a good looking pizza. And also, you can still read the things that you want to be able to read so that you can order food. Okay, that is how to import an asset from Pexels to Photoshop to Illustrator.